When it comes to foster care memoirs, of which I have read many, there is usually at least one adult in every book that I want to grab by the shoulders and shake, because the adult is the reason that that child is not thriving, the reason that they're not doing very well. And it really frustrates me when these people, usually the parents or parent, can't see that they are the reason their child is the way they are, or a decision that they have made has led to this situation. And this is exactly what we get with the story of Tyler. Tyler is the subject of Casey Watson's memoir, Nowhere to Go, and there won't be any spoilers in this discussion for this particular book. I have mentioned recently that I'm rereading all of Casey Watson's books. I've read this one before. I'm not entirely sure when I read it, maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. And I'm now reading them chronologically, and all I can say is if you do plan on starting to read Casey Watson's books, please read them chronologically. If you need the list, let me know. I've pulled together a list of them chronologically, and I certainly recommend that you do that. This one is, oh gosh, book 5 or 6 maybe? I'm not entirely sure, but it's relatively early in, and Casey is fostering this young boy called Tyler, who is going into care because he pulled a knife on his stepmother. Now, it's not horrendous. He didn't actually stab her. We never kind of got the truth, because he's saying he didn't mean to stab her and he only kind of, lightly grazed her with the knife, which isn't great, but she's obviously claiming that it's something so much more and that he ran at her and intentionally stabbed her. And I'm inclined to believe Tyler, because we learn quite quickly that this stepmother wants nothing to do with him. And he's living with his father because his mother died from a drug overdose when he was about, I think, 3 years old. And his father is kind of an absent father. I understand that he works away quite a lot. So the stepmother has to care for Tyler and his younger half-brother, Grant, his half-brother on his father's side, of course. And the stepmother clearly doesn't like him. And that's fine. If she doesn't like him, you can't force her to. But the fact that the father constantly sides with the stepmother, and it makes Tyler feel so rejected because his own father is siding with his stepmother. Tyler's got a very interesting personality, because sometimes he's distraught, understandably distraught at the way his parent is treating him. And sometimes he brushes it off and kind of, sticks out his chest and juts up his chin and says, no, if they don't want to love me, that's fine, I don't need them. And he kind of goes back and forth on the two, and it's heartbreaking, because deep down it will hurt him. And no child should come second to their father's partner. Absolutely not. And he wants a relationship with his brother, but the stepmother's trying to put a wedge in there, and it's just so frustrating. Because I really wanted the best for this child. He's a very likable character, and obviously he gets angry and swears, and he's the typical 11. I believe he was 11 at the time of the beginning of the story. But compared to a lot of children, he's not naughty, he doesn't misbehave, he's just got a lot of emotions. And he's one of the characters, I use the word character because obviously it's based on a true story. The genuine person obviously isn't called Tyler, but there are foster care memoirs where it takes me a little while to gel with the child and for me to actually think, actually, you're a good person. You've just had, well, you've been dealt a bad card in life. But with Tyler, I never thought he was a bad person. From the off, straight away, I thought, this is a product of your environment. You are not a bad person. And unfortunately, bad things seem to happen to him increasingly, and it's just heartbreaking. And there's a moment in this book where I sobbed. Usually these books make me cry a bit, but there was a bit where I genuinely welling up just thinking about it. It involves, no, I won't say it, but you'll know what I mean. It's the most heartbreaking bit in the book. At least in my opinion it is, but I'm pretty confident you'll know which bit I mean. And it just feels like he was never going to get a break in life. Whether or not he does, I'm not going to say. But it's a delightful book to read for the right reasons. It's great to see him thriving when he's with Casey. That's very apparent that, away from that toxic environment and the abuse he felt at home, it's definitely a new, fresh start for him. And whether or not the future remains like that, I won't say. But I really enjoyed it. I remember liking it the first time I read it. Reading it now for the second time, I enjoyed it just as much. Nowhere to Go is definitely a very powerful, very eye-opening book. And if this is your kind of read, I'm pretty confident it's one that you're going to enjoy.